Yeah, we just learned we're supposed to pick up the trash. That's what I was doing. So flags and a day off and talk about patriotism and World Cup soccer and barbecues and driving someplace and then driving back all at the same time. And this is a day, this is part of this 4th of July weekend, this time when we celebrate the birth of our country, a time to celebrate who we are as citizens of the United States. So there's this story in the Bible, and it seems like every time Jesus turned around, he's doing all this work, he's teaching people, he's healing people, he's trying to lift their spirits, and every once in a while there's some people who are trying to mess with him, who are trying to kind of trip him up. And so the current story says that there were a group of Pharisees who were also, included in that group were some of Herod's people. And they came to Jesus, and they said, we know you're a man of integrity, and that you don't play favorites, and that you tell the truth. And here's a question for you. You should always be suspicious when people begin a question with a little bit of buttering up. So here's the question. Is it okay for the Jews to pay taxes to the Roman government? Now, this would have been a topic of some controversy because there were groups of Jews who were kind of in cooperation with the Roman government, people who had positions of power because the Romans had given them that power. And there were other Jews who resisted the power of the state and weren't too sure about this whole thing of paying taxes. But Jesus recognized that there was a bit of a trap in this question. If he answered it as one might expect with a yes or no answer, he was going to be in trouble. If he said yes, it's okay to pay taxes, he would have angered the people who were in resistance. If he said no, he would actually have been guilty of sedition. And so he said, well, tell me, show me a coin that you would pay this tax with. And someone produced the coin, and Jesus looked at it, and he saw that on that coin was the face of Ceasar. And he said to them those famous words, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's." So give back to Caesar whatever is Caesar's, and give back to God whatever is God's. And of course, the people who were doing that thing went away just a bit perplexed. But this question, this story, has raised this whole issue of the relationship between church and state, between God and Caesar, between religious authority and political authority. Now, various religious traditions have dealt with this question of the overlap or the intersection, or actually the separation of these two things in a variety of ways. There are some people who have literally kind of pulled themselves out of the common scene altogether in order to live fully in the presence of God with almost no connection to the civic or the political reality. There are some traditions that have taken very strong stands in relationship to certain state actions, the Anabaptists who refused to serve in wars and even sometimes resisted paying taxes that went toward war. There have been some traditions who really think that this is a Christian state and should be governed accordingly. And of course, in other parts of the world, that same thing is playing out in completely different ways, but not all that dissimilar. So this is a question that is alive today, right now, right here. So how have we played this? How have we chosen to look at this relationship between politics and religion? Well, the first thing is that most mainline Protestant denominations are pretty much integrated right into the cultural scene. We've not separated ourselves. We are in the middle of it. Some of us have positions of authority or power in institutions, including political ones, or ones with political power. So we are right in the middle of things. We have not chosen to set ourselves apart necessarily. We have tended, as progressive Christians, to claim not just a kind of authority to one government or one place, but to see ourselves in this larger picture, just as Rachel was talking to the children this morning. At one level, we are citizens of the United States, and we are also citizens of the world. Our particular religious point of view includes the idea that our connection to our brothers and sisters doesn't end at our borders. So where does that leave us today? What is needed in this conversation between political and religious life right now, right here in this particular time and place? What is needed? Now, because many progressive Christian traditions have a strong justice component, which is true of the United Church of Christ, at one level, there's almost always a sense of dissatisfaction. Because in the justice journey, there is always going to be an injustice to name or to work toward righting. So there can be that tendency in justice people to never be satisfied. I can remember a long, long time ago, I was on a trip. I think I was traveling with some of my dancing friends, and I remember we were sitting in a fast food joint somewhere, and it must have been the 4th of July weekend, and we were talking about the United States and how we felt about it, and I just watched us all complain. That's what we did mostly. I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't like this, I don't like that. And it was sincere, and I could do that right now. I could complain. And I probably should. But I want to see if we can hold the possibility of celebrating this land that we live in at the same time that we call it to account. I believe this is possible, and I believe it's actually part of the way that we have to live in this modern life. We have to be able to hold several things at once, at the same time, things that often seem to be in conflict. So to be able to celebrate the fact that we are a free people, to be able to celebrate the fact that we're mostly at peace in our land, to celebrate the fact that we have so much to celebrate, that we have so much at hand, that this is a beautiful place to live, and we are beautiful people, all of us. Can we hold that reality as well as looking at our own responsibility in this time, in this place, in the world? We are a civically engaged people, I would say, both as a community, this community, and as individuals. I know so many of us are involved in one thing or another that has to do with the common good. And it seems to me if there's one thing that needs to be lifted up in this time and place, it's the common good. It's to recognize that being a citizen is nothing about being a soloist. Being a citizen is to be part of the chorus. To be able to work together, to be able to play together, to be able to see other points of view, to be able to cooperate and collaborate, to be able to work things out, to be able to find new ways of doing things. Not just to have conflict, not just to hold our rigid positions, not just to use whatever facts that we might have to justify our own particular limited points of view. We are called to this bigger time, this bigger place. Not just our own tiny island of self-interest, but the recognition that we are all connected, all of us here today, the people out in the streets, the people in other parts of the world who are suffering or rejoicing. We are one. Make us one, Lord. Make us one. Those folks who came to Jesus that day to see if they could snare him in the trap praised him for three things at the beginning of the story. And maybe this is what's important about this story for us today. They praised his truthfulness. They praised his integrity. They praised his impartiality. Maybe those are the things that we are called to lift up mightily in this time and in this place. Amen.